Welcome everyone who's watching. We are Songs for World Peace, um, premiering today our amazing songs that our artists contributed. And this is the panel that we wanted to host and to invite some of their uh, opinion leaders and industry leaders. I wouldn't say industry, but the people who actually in the space of world peace and make decisions. While we're waiting, we're just also gonna informally a little bit chat. We also have artists today with us. I see Zaira. Zaira, hi. I see Shahar is also joining. And of course, there's the founders of Songs for World Peace is Yoshi and Nakayama and Otako Tayama. Uh, and me, Natalia Karaseva, we're the three co-founders Songs for World Peace, started back in April, and today is our official release day. We went live with more than 60 songs from 60 countries, and so it's been amazing to see the response from all the artists and talking about the same cause that we're all passionate and we care about. Um, I think we could start while we're gonna wait. So we actually invited some panelists. So who's gonna join in us? Oh, hi, this is Kate.
Great to see everybody.
Great to see you. So just kind of want to quickly introduce. So I'm Natalia, and Kate is a president of UN Women SF chapter and also a president of SOCAP Global. So we are very grateful to have you. It's going to be more, I mentioned it's a panel, but I think it's going to be more open discussion, conversation about today's International Day of Peace. It's a great to have this day, but peace does not end just today. So we can talk about like what are we doing, how does the art respond, and specifically music, what the musicians can do, how business responds to that, so we can kind of have that conversation. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited. It's a great group.
We're also we're also expecting Laura Hassler from Musicians Without Borders and Marianka Golovchenko from Art 27. They're going to join in a short time. But why don't we start with just to kind of a promo, just to show you the impact, you know, what the Songs for World Peace, just kind of our teaser, so to start the conversation.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you. You know, when we were putting together all these slides, you know, we work, and every day there's been like lots of work to make it happen. But when we actually put all the slides, and we were so impressed by how many artists participated. And then this short video just shows you like, wow, so many countries, so many artists. So again, kudos to our artists. Thank you. So we actually would love to, before we start a conversation, before other panelists join, would like to present a couple songs from Songs for World Peace. And the first one is going to be by our submission from Cuba and Puerto Rico, and Zaira right now is with us. She's going to present and say just a few words about the song. Zaira, what is the song? What was the message? How did you come up with? And then we'll watch the song after this.
Sure. I got inspired about what's going on in the world right now. There's a lot, and we're killing each other. And as a Puerto Rican, I have to say it, and talking about the LGBTQ plus community, about the Black Life Matters, about the contamination. There's so much to talk, and this is just an example that if we come together and we respect each other with love, we can have peace. So I hope you guys love this song.
Pido paz para mi tierra, paz para este mundo. Extiéndele la mano a ese vagabundo. Si fuéramos conscientes de lo que está de frente, entenderíamos que no somos tan diferentes. Nos persiguen y nos matan, por eso no me puedo quedar de brazos cruzados. La raza humana es solo una. Si no pones tu parte, no quedará ninguna. Empecemos con la educación, ese es el primer paso. Trabajando todos juntos y sin ningún retraso. De paso, necesitamos más unión y que en la política no haya corrupción. Los inmigrantes nos fajamos todo el día para un mejor futuro y nuestro pan de cada día. La gente discrimina por un color de piel, si eres blanco y negro o si eres de otra fe. De malas influencias, paremos la maldad y todo tipo de violencia. Nuestra existencia está siempre amenazada por ese 1% de mentes depravadas. Pero esta canción es para los valientes, creando conciencia y liberando nuestra mente. Y recuerda que somos inteligentes, juntos lograremos paz para nuestra gente. Dejemos el odio al homosexual, el feminicidio, triste realidad. Estamos sufriendo de salud mental, nativos muriendo por su identidad. Pedimos parar, poder respirar, que del de otro color dejen de abusar. Queremos sanar nuestra humanidad, pedimos amor, queremos paz.
Wow, what a powerful song.
It is.
Thank you so much, Zara. Thank you, and your inspiration, and what you brought to the project. And we have another artist also that just joined us, Giro. Hi, Giro. It's good to have you. We're in conversation with Kate Byrne from UN Women, and we are also, while we're waiting for other panelists, we're going to show another song is by Shahar, who's, it's an interesting perspective. We talked about a little bit today that from we come from so many different parts of the world, and Jahar comes from Israel, and what's happening in Israel, it was just kind of so greatly captured. So we want to show that. So Jahar, can you say a little bit about your song?
Yes, it's called the River of Tears. The lyrics are by Rachel Shapira, who is, I think she's in her 60s. She's one of Israel's really important writers in my perspective. And for me, the personal is very connected to the global, to the societal, and to the global. So for me, this point of crying or not crying, like this is it's very, very connected to the ability to create. And I would love to talk more about it maybe in our coming conversation. But yeah, this is what I have to say about it.
זרום נהר של בכי אל חוף ללא שנאה, בחי נהר גם על אלה שכבר הלכו ואינם, בחי נהר גם על אלה שכבר יבשה עינם, את ראשם הם הסבו, אתה תבכה במקומם, פרח צף על פני המים, שטות סירות של נייר, בחי נהר יום ולילה, כי לא למדנו דבר. זרום נהר של בכי אל חוף ללא שנאה, בחי נהר גם על אלה שכבר הלכו ואינם, בחי נהר על ההרס, איבה בין אח לאח, בחי מרה על הארץ ועל הדם שנשפך, צף על פני המים, שטות סירות של נייר, בחי נהר יום ולילה, כי לא למדנו דבר, פרח צף על פני המים, שטות סירות של נייר, בחי נהר יום ולילה, כי לא למדנו דבר, בחי נהר יום ולילה, כי לא למדנו דבר.
Wow.
Thank
Just-
you.
It was an impression that actually where in Israel. You're based in Tel Aviv, right?
Yes, I live in Tel Aviv now. This video was shot in Jerusalem. There are weekly demonstrations every Saturday, huge demonstrations now, 40,000 people every week, and people also on bridges all over the country protesting. So the idea of this video was to get that energy and to try to find the silence within all that commotion.
Very powerful. I think you really achieved this.
Thank you.
I see that Laura Hassler, Laura just joined us. Let me introduce you. This is Laura Hassler. She's a founding director of Musicians Without Borders. Amazing organization that actually doing doing for their, things for the world peace. And Laura will share later what Musicians Without Borders is doing. But I want to, Laura, and we here on the panel, we have Kate Byrne, who is the president of UN Women SF chapter and also president of SOCAP Global. We're also expecting Marianka Golovchenko from Art27, and we also have our artists. We have Zaira, we have Shahar, and we have Guru, and our founders, Yoshie and Otako. So I think we can start this panel, and by panel, I mean not really a panel, but more like an open-ended conversation. Today is International Day of Peace. From the artist perspective, we come from Songs for World Peace, asked our artists to contribute the songs, what they think the peace means to them. And I think this question is, what does peace mean to you? It's a question to ask you. I think it would be my first question to ask you, because everyone has its own answers and from your perspective. So why don't we just start with what does peace actually mean to you? I'm addressing to Laura and to Kate. We'll start.
Well, that's a big question. I guess it's good that you're trying to get people from all over the world to provide answers to it. One of the slogans of a lot of the movements that are standing up in the world the last couple of years is no justice, no peace. And to me, peace, real true peace, is intimately tied to justice. And that means social justice and economic justice. And I think that the idea that peace just means that the guns stop and that, a war has been, that powerful leaders have decided that they're, for one reason or another, they've sort of run out of bullets, or they're tired of shooting each other, or something that they, that they're, or something that there's a decision made. That is not peace. That is a cessation of shooting. But I mean, in our work, we're working in places, mostly in places where there has been war, sometimes, 20 years ago, but there's no peace because there's no justice, because there's been no real process of reconciliation, because there's been no accounting with truth. And I think those are all elements of peace. And that I think when we're speaking about peace and talking about learning about it, that it's important to think of that as a complex of issues, all of which have to interplay with each other, and probably is never completely there, but is a journey.
Agreed. And building off of that, to me, it has a lot to do with equity, which in my mind is meeting me where I'm at with what I need. And then I have the choice to live and do with that which I want. And I don't have to get approval from somebody else. To your point, I am not told when I cannot do something. It is also coming forth with compassion and lack of judgment, a certain humility, I would say a certain curiosity as to how others live their lives, and not judging them on right, wrong, good, bad. This whole sense of duality is so dated. Obviously, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked ever. And I think once we realize that we're complex, we're multi-layered, but as long as we live and let live in the peace and let live, without saying that's obviously and when I'm saying this, it doesn't mean you can go shoot people. Obviously that is dangerous. And when no one is in danger, to me, that is peace. And there's peace of mind, right?
May I just respond to that a little bit?
Sure.
I want to pass it around. I agree with you. To me, Kate, what you've described is very much on the individual level, which is very important.
Right.
I also think that if you're talking about equity and justice, you have to look at the question of power, the question of manipulation of power, and the question of history. If you look at histories of colonialism and slavery and genocide. And those are very complex histories, and many of them are still going on today in new forms. And so those are social realities where I think those same principles that you were, that to me anyway, the way you expressed it was a very, like from me to you, from person to person. But I think you also have to look in terms of societies, cultures, and the question of power, and how is power distributed? How is wealth distributed? When you have a world as we do, where fewer than 1% of the population owns as much wealth as 50% of the world population, there can be no peace. There can be no peace in that.
And that is one of the things that we at SOCAP are actively, frankly, working on, right? We're trying to work towards and get, to your point, you know, our sweet spot has historically been impact investing. Well, let's be straight. Impact investing started as a very white, male, privileged situation. And we, ever since then, have been trying to really drive a systemic change of how those funds are allocated, who is, you know, because there's a lot of conversation about, to your point, power. When I think of power, I think of capital, but I don't just think of financial capital. I think of reputational and of social and intellectual and political. And so making sure that, and that's one of the things where I think music can really play a huge role. To me, music is this amazing connective tissue that enables both an individual experience, but also a collective experience. And at one point, it offers a space where there's a pause and there's room to just have a conversation on a human level, which then could perhaps open the door for deeper conversations, to go to trickier situations, right? Where people are feeling pain or anyway.
You two are working on this world peace and social, injustice or inequality. And one of the things that I'm curious is that oftentimes world peace comes from, Laura said, you said about justice, but sometimes there are conflict of justice. What I believe is, music can bring us personal experience.
Yep.
And by creating personal experience with people, step by step, we will try to accept that there is always other perspective than what you have. And maybe possibility of having another possibility of justice might improve this situation as well. But I'm really curious to know what your view about justice.
Kate, did you want to speak to that? I saw you. No. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree that music can play this role of what influencing the way that we feel about each other. I'm also careful about that because I know how powerful music can be. And I know that there have been many instances throughout history and continue to be, and also in some of the places where we work as Musicians Without Borders, where music has been used to divide people because it's such a powerful force that it can also bring a group of people together against another group of people. And so within our organization, we talk about the connecting power of music as one of the principles on which we work. We honor the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a second kind of guiding principle, and we believe in the power of active nonviolence as taught by Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer, Gandhi, many others, as a kind of a conscience. And out of that mix, we've grown a number of principles that we teach, that we use, that we ground much of our work on, which is a way of kind of checking back. So if we're teaching children in Rwanda songwriting, that the way that we do that is not going to produce songwriters who are going to write hate songs and get them put on the radio, which was one of the things that happened pre-genocide. Exactly. You know, if we're working with kids in Kosovo, in teaching rock music in a rock music school and teaching them songwriting, we're trying to do that in such a way that the connection between the kids from the other side of the city is, we don't tell them what to write, but is created in such a way that the content of what they're feeling and what they're doing will be reflected in their music. So that's, I'm not exactly answering your question, but I'm trying to kind of get there through a bit of a complicated path, because it is very complicated. And there are so many layers, and history is so tricky. And we're all coming from different backgrounds. We all have our own stories, and so do all the people that, you know, we're working with around the world. So, I mean, the 5 principles that we base most of our work on, all of our work on, is safety, inclusion, equality, creativity, and quality, those 5. And that's what we try to base our work on, so that we can check back and say, okay, was this a safe space? Is the way that we did this, did that create a space where these kids could express their creativity? Did we treat everybody equally? Did everybody get an equal chance? Did we do the very best we could? Did we give these kids the chance to bring out the very best quality that they have within them? And to me, that's a kind of, you know, we're not, in these projects, we're not solving the issues of war and peace. What we're doing is, I think, on the ground, trying to plant some of the seeds that can lead to a more peaceful and just society through the music. And there's another interesting thing about music, and I'm sorry, and I'll stop talking in a minute, but is one of the is a peace building expert, professor, actual person who's helped to end wars, is a man named John Paul Lederach. And he writes about the fact that the ways in which music can give a voice to the voiceless, and sometimes literally so, because people living in situations of conflict and poverty and suffering, oppression, have often had experiences which are literally unspeakable. And yet, through music, you can go to a place where you can express what you have experienced, or your hopes, or your dreams, or who you are as a complex person. And that, I think that's one of the great powers of music, that in that way it gets to a kind of truth about people in a way that is liberating, and that doesn't put people into the boxes that we often get confined to as a result of poverty and war and exclusion, all of these things that we're hoping to contribute to shifting.
I was going to actually touch upon that whole piece about giving voice to the voiceless, because I really think that's a really important piece. And, you know, there are 5 different ways that people learn and also express themselves. And so not everybody is able to read or write, or et cetera. And to me, music, it's all it's a situation of energetics, right? Of energy. And so it goes right, depending on the chord. I'm speaking to you know a lot more about all of this than I, but I know that it goes straight to one's heart. And when you're able to open up that heart, the heart sees, from Velveteen Rabbit, the heart sees what the eyes and the mind misses. And I think that is really key to how we can help start giving people their voices, but then also this notion of taking a beat and perhaps treating people the way they like to be treated, and being able to hear or just stop for a second. It probably also opens up that empathic nerve, so you're able to just meet each other where you're at, from heart to heart. I'm 4th generation Californian, so I know a lot of that's juju, and I can't help but born and raised from a family of mystics. So it's in my blood.
I just want to say that it's interesting how you speak about, you know, to the heart. Actually, our motto of Songs for All Peace is "Our hearts beat for peace," and the initiative started as to we are Songs for All Peace is created to promote peace through the power of music, and and each and every word is very carefully chosen, because there's a power of music. And then we are promoting peace, and as Laura said, we can promote, we can promote war through the music. We can promote, but what are we choosing to provide, to promote? And one of the artists today from Trinidad and Tobago said that being an artist comes actually from with a responsibility. But we also need organizations like Musicians Without Borders to kind of direct our efforts into the right, and sometimes form voices, like, for example, what you mentioned you're doing in Kosovo, how those kids are writing songs. Are they going to write about the conflict, or are they going to write about more, peace? So it's very important, the work that we do.
Mostly they write about love, by the way.
As children beautifully do.
Mostly they just want a normal life.
Yeah. I will say that, every year SOCAP holds their annual event. This year I'm excited because it's going to be virtual. The reason why I'm excited is it means that more people can come and have access to the insights and the information. For the first time, and it's something that I believe we're going to continue to do from this point forward, we're having a track that's devoted to art, culture, and the role that it plays in bringing social justice and having true impact. So I'm very excited, and I would love, I'm happy to set up, if there are folks who would like to come, I'm happy to set up a special code for you. So let me know if that's something of interest, and you can share it in the follow-up, but know that I invite everyone to come.
Thank you, Kate. Absolutely love to come and we can speak about it too. And also, I wanted just to mention this. I think it's important to connect artists to those, as I said, like opportunities to speak the voice. And like he's mentioning, SOCAP first time creating a track for arts. So it's wonderful that you're doing this. And early, South by Southwest started, like doing this, and other conferences like Collision, they had a special track for, and all the global major conferences started having that track, recognizing their importance of arts being present in business. So yes, and the social impact. And when you talk about social impact, of course, you talk about also music, because this is how is one of the tools delivering the message. In terms of the work, Laura, I have a question for you. So when you work in those regions, when you go to Kosovo and you went to Rwanda, how do they see those communities when you bring artists to work with them? How do they see us? How do they see the musicians that come, let's say, from a specific organization, like for example you? How do they, are they responding to what you're trying to create with them, and what's the first reaction?
Okay, so just very briefly, I mean, every place that we work is different, every history is different, and the people we meet are different. And the reason that we get invited is always different. We never decide ourselves that we're going to go here or we're going to go there, but we're invited. And in some cases, we're invited by an organization that is working on questions of war and peace reconciliation. That was the case in Kosovo. We were invited to a divided city, and we then met rock musicians who told us that there were so many young people who wanted to be rock musicians, but they had no instruments, they had no place, and rock music had been suppressed during the war. And actually, so musicians didn't get any jobs anymore, and this nationalist music genre had been created to divide people. So we saw this as an opportunity to do something that we believed in and that would also respond to a need. And then together with local musicians, the ones who had said that they wanted something, they wanted to be able to work with young people in their city. We worked with them for years to develop this. And so it wasn't like we came with our ideas and our thoughts and our plans. It was like we got invited to help think about how music could play a role here. In Rwanda, we were invited, well, two of our trainers went and traveled through that whole region and met people, and then were invited by an HIV clinic that are working with, was set up for women who had contracted HIV because of the sexual violence that was massively used during the genocide. And by now there are second and third generation of young people and children who are infected with HIV. And so we met them, we met Rwandan musicians, we did sort of sample workshops, we talked about what did they want, and we ended up training youth leaders within that program to become music leaders with children. So then we wouldn't send performers to, I mean, by now we're thinking about maybe sending a performer, but by now we've been there for 8 years and we've trained about 300 young people who are working with thousands of children all the time. So it's not really about, bringing our musicians, it's really about finding out together with local people and local musicians what the needs are and exploring how we might be able to help with that. Another project in El Salvador, for example, we were invited by UNICEF El Salvador, who are working there in various ways to help to protect children against a climate of violence, because children grow up surrounded by gang violence and drug violence and mafia violence, and gangs run most of the country, and UNICEF was trying to find ways of protecting the children from that violence. And what we found out together or created together is a program, and we're now in the 3rd year of that, where we're training 100 music teachers who work in schools. How do you create through your music within your classroom a space where children get a different way of relating to each other and build their self-confidence, build their connection, build their own creativity, so that they have an alternative to falling into that drug culture. So it's about creating then a culture of nonviolence, and I come back to that nonviolence that I mentioned earlier, through the music. So they're all very different, and they're all very creative, I guess. So that's one of the, it's a lot of my work there. I am or used to be a musician, but I'm not performing or singing with people anymore. But that creativity is about sitting and thinking, well, how could we do this, and what do you need, and how are we going to make this stick, and how will this become something that is, so that Rwanda project, for example, is now completely being run by Rwandan musicians and local people who were in the program for some years. So that's it. And by that time, how do they see us? I hope as allies, as people who are reaching out to musicians all over the world and helping to provide tools so that musicians can become social activists in their own communities. That's how I hope they see us.
And I think you just said beautifully how music can be so helpful, right? When you start thinking about that, and I think of when you were to hear you speak, I was just thinking of a jam session, right? Or when someone's trying to riff and then somebody picks up and then another picks up, and it's that amazing ability to connect dots that others may not be able to see, that then ends up going on and composing this amazing work of art. Similarly, we need that kind of, I would say, and I'm going to go beyond innovative. I'm going to say transformational, because to me, innovation is great, but it's iterative. Transformation is just that, completely all new. And I think that kind of thinking, that ability to see and feel that way is really important. That's why I've for long, that's why we're trying to do our part to really support the arts and culture and music in general.
And I think the other thing, and then thinking of these wonderful young composers and singer-songwriters who've been performing their music, and we've seen a couple of clips of the songs, is that the other thing that music can do, and I think needs to be doing more, and as I see all of you and the work you're doing is moving into that space, is lifting voices with a message to say something, because there are important things to be said. and that's also a function of art. And it's one of the functions that's sort of gotten lost over the years in the commercialization of music for a lot of people anyway, certainly in the public perception of what music is. So to me, sort of that connecting that you can do on the ground is one piece that we're trying to retrieve and learn how to use and, you know, spread as well as we can. The other piece is what you are all doing, which is saying something important, using your stage, as it were, to comment on the world. And that, I think those are two parts of the same process and two incredibly important functions that music can have for all of us. I'd be really curious to hear what some of the musicians who are with us think about these issues myself.
Yes, and I think it's absolutely true. I also think you play a crucial role in having the younger generations understand the relevance of some of these worldly situations or something that's happening in a different country. They may feel it doesn't, and adults too for that matter, oh, that's not in my backyard, so it doesn't matter. But oh yes, it does, because we're all connected. So and you're encouraging folks to ask, raising those questions and raising those issues so they stop and think for a second. But I agree, I'd love to hear what you all think.
I personally, what I believe is that, you know, when we look at newspaper, before I go to, you know, we all met at Berklee College of Music in Boston, and most of us are. And then before that, I didn't even care about history. I was sleeping at the history class, and I just didn't care about news because I just keep scrolling, and because I don't care, it doesn't really affect my daily life. But what I found out is, you know, I meet, you know, friend from, you know, I'm from Japan, and then I make friend who is from South Korea and China, and who from the place that I didn't know which exist. And then next time when I read the news, I can't think of them. If there is earthquake in some place, I think about them. If there is fire in California, I can't think about, you know, stop thinking about, oh, is she okay? Is he okay? World now became much, much personal place for me. And I wish to create that through music. And then hopefully, you know, by creating those personal experience for other people coming from different places, I hope we come to the conclusion that, oh, actually, world is not that big, you know, we can be just all friends.
There's so much to say. I don't know. I'm afraid if I open my mouth, I will never shut it. So that's one fear. So I will talk about this because I definitely had a transformative experience in Berklee, which I think led me to this specific song and many other things. It's something that we had, which I met some of the people here at the cultural leadership retreat, and some really, I got to meet like the last. So, you know, we talked about empathy, and I think empathy is maybe, I don't know, it's the most crucial word. It's most crucial skill. It's what might save us eventually. But so, I mean, so what is stopping it? You know, that's one question I have many times. It's like, what? I don't believe, I think all of us have empathy. You know, it's something that exists in I want to believe that in every person on earth. So, and I know, you know, for my own, that what held back some of empathy was definitely fear and very, very strong cultural stories. And I saw that the part of me, you know, my political views changed pretty drastically. I was, let's say, kind of center-right, pretty center on my political views. And after actually meeting Palestinian people, which live, you know, 10-minute drive for me, but I didn't get to meet them until I was, you know, to meet them. And when I mean meet, I meet on equal footing. not to meet them not as a soldier, not to meet them as construction workers in my apartment, to meet them as fellow students, as musicians. And it's very hard to get over the defensiveness of some very ingrained, we are good, no one wants to believe that I'm part of the bad guys. Nobody wants to take that role. It's a major step to, and so I think a lot of this is fear. When you come, fear and what you talked about, when you don't know a single person who is gay, you're way more likely to be afraid of gayness, and or be afraid of Arabs, or be afraid, you're afraid of general things. And when you meet actual people, it's not enough. You can meet people and still hold on to your story so intensely that you can't even see that they are not what you think they are. So music, music can help dismantle some old stories and maybe build new ones. And it's the most fun thing in the world. So that's a plus. Thank you.
I think you said something very important there, talking about fear, and there's a and I guess it was, who was talking about empathy? Kate, maybe somebody was talking about empathy. Yeah, and I think that's a very key. Fear is so key in the maintenance of power as it is. The use of fear to manipulate people. There's always the fear of the other. There are always stories made about whom we need to be afraid of. And in fact, when you dig deep enough, you find out that those are just stories, indeed. But how do you get from there, understanding that, and how do you get to the space of empathy? And I do think that is one of the places where music can play an incredibly important role. There's actually been some neuro research done on this question, and which has shown that, in fact, that experiencing music together, or understanding music, or relating to music, can decrease fear, for one thing, and increase the potential for empathy. And I think that's an incredibly important relationship that we as musicians need to know about, and need to employ. We need to. I was telling a story the other day of, at one point when we were traveling through the Balkans like 20 years ago, and we got stopped by soldiers, and we were in a bus, and it was a tour, and it was our first Musicians Without Borders tour, trying to connect with musicians there. It was before we did the work that I described before. And these soldiers, they knew we had a lot of instruments that we were giving away to people who'd lost their instruments in the war, and donated instruments. But, at a certain point, our guide said, Laura, this is just going to cost us money. These guys just want money. They're asking to pass the border. They're asking for tax or insurance or whatever it was. And we were trying to get into Croatia. And, I remembered a Croatian song that most of the people in the bus knew. And I said, everybody remember Lepi Juro? And we took it through one time. I said, okay, everybody out of the bus, we're going to stand in front of the customs hut over there. And our guide said, no, you're not allowed out of the bus. I said, come on, we'll go. Smile, here we go. We stand outside the customs hut, and we start to sing this song. It's a traditional Croatian song. And you see these guards just, welling up, and the tears start to roll down their cheeks. And, oh, welcome to Croatia. Welcome, come in, go on, you're welcome. I mean, and why? Because, everybody caught in this, us afraid of these guys with guns, the guys afraid of whatever, not having enough money, not having enough prestige, whatever their routine is. And then a song, and I mean, that's a very simple story, but it was a life lesson for me. And I think that I've seen so many instances where people get through their fear, or get to a different place by experiencing music together. Sorry, long story, I'm a storyteller.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and for everyone to asking the questions. I'm just mindful of the time on the panel, and we want to make sure we also play some songs. And as a representation, we wanted to play one of your project, which became also our submissions from Rwanda. So why don't we all watch this?
yaba umuhungu cyangwa se umukobwa akwiye ubu burenganzira akwiye agaciro akwiye kwitabwaho akwiye kumvikana siwe wabishatse no ahubwo n'imana ushake kurega byiza aho n'agaciro tuzakwitaho uko bikwiye tugufashe uko ari ngombwa wewe nukwiriye iheba kuko uri nk'undi kuko uri nk'undi Waiting man, good man, Congolese, Rwandese, we are the Kigali, Kinshasa,
Wow, wonderful. And the song's name is All Children Are Equal. Isn't it true? And this is the message that we hear, from all our artist submissions. It's like we are the one. We're not different from each other. So why are we fighting? We have another song that we wanted to actually share it with you. We have the artist who is wrote the song, Max from Germany, is with us right now. So Max, would you like to?
Hi everyone.
Your song? Hi.
Hi. Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, first of all. And the panel, since I was able to join, has been super amazing to follow too. My song that I wrote is called Flut in German, which means flood. And I just feel like this year, a lot of the underlying issues, societal issues and political issues that already existed kind of built up a lot more and were sort of unveiled. I mean, I'm currently in America, and here certainly there have been a lot of tensions, but I think all over the world really. And the song that I wrote is really about that. In German, we have a saying that kind of says, after like, you know, ebb and flow, and after low tide comes the flood. And right now I feel like all of these issues have been building up, one of which, and to me maybe the most threatening of all, is the climate catastrophe, which is so intersectional with everything else, and it will, if we don't really change our path, only exaggerate all the other issues that already exist, and it will worsen refugee crises and etc. So, but I do also think that right now we have the chance to really open our eyes to it and like change our course a little bit, and with empathy, as you guys said, try to create a world that is equal and protects the planet, and that protects the people who would be suffering from climate change the most too, which is people of color, women disproportionately much more than men, and poor communities. So that's what the song is about. And thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Max.
Horizont geht auf, Sonne zieht ihren Lauf und der Augenblick wiegt schwer. Todstellen geht nicht mehr, Geschichte bleibt, Vergangenheit haben wir dabei irgendwas gelernt. Licht ist bereit, ergreift nie Partei, zeigt uns auch, was hässlich ist, was genauso menschlich ist, wie grenzenloses Liebestoben, ungeschont und ungebogen. Alles oder nichts, wir gehen weiter, weiter, einfach immer weiter. Denk nicht an die Geister, die nicht mitkommen, lass sie bleiben. Weiter, keiner weiß mehr weiter. Spannung in der Luft, weil jetzt ne Welle kommen muss. Nach der Ebbe kommt die Flut, immer schneller auf uns zu. Müssen uns mal fragen, haben wir uns vielleicht verraten? Nicht nur böse, nicht nur gut, macht mir Angst und macht mir Mut und schreit in allen Farben, ey, wir können nicht mehr warten, bis sich irgendwann was tut. Nichts kann ewig auf sich ruhen. Nach der Ebbe kommt die schöne neue Welt, die nicht mehr hält, siegessicher, selbstbestimmt in unserem Plastiklabyrinth. Wetterkarten dunkelrot, Wasser stehen bald himmelhoch. Einfacher wär's blind. Kommen wir zusammen, gehen Hand in Hand oder tausendfach geteilt, bis die Sehnsucht uns vereint. Am Ende träumen wir alle gleich, Fantasie reißt federleicht. Findet das, was jeder sucht. Nach der Ebbe kommt die Flut, immer schneller auf uns zu. Müssen uns mal fragen, haben wir uns vielleicht verraten? Nicht nur böse, nicht nur gut, macht mir Angst und macht mir Mut und schreit in allen Farben, ey, wir können nicht mehr warten, bis sich irgendwann was tut. Nichts kann ewig auf sich ruhen. Nach der Ebbe kommt die Flut. Weiter, weiter, geht so nicht mehr weiter. Wohin gehen die Geister, die nicht mitkommen? Weiter. Spannung in der Luft, weil jetzt ne Welle kommen muss. Nach der Ebbe kommt die Flut, immer schneller auf uns zu. Müssen uns mal fragen, haben wir uns vielleicht verraten? Nicht nur böse, nicht nur gut, macht mir Angst und macht mir Mut. Schreit in allen Farben, ey, wir können nicht mehr warten, bis sich irgendwann was tut. Nichts kann ewig auf sich ruhen. nach der Ebbe kommt die Flut.
Thank you so much for sharing that with everybody. And thank you for letting me be a part of this beautiful project.
Thanks. Thank you so much for joining and sharing and writing your song. You know, most of our submissions, actually musicians wrote specifically for this cause. So this is really, really special. So thank you so much, and presenting and sharing your message. So it's very, every voice is important. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to be mindful of our time. We said it's going to be till whatever zone you are. I'm just going to say my zone. It's 1 p.m. till 1 p.m. in San Francisco time. But we have a couple more artists, and Marianka from Art27 just joined us. Hi. It's good to have you. We've been on the panel with Art27 earlier today. It was such a great conversation, and also maybe I just want to say, if you need to go, please go. We will stay a little for a little bit, just since we're here. Why not? It's such a great cause, such a great day, and so please don't feel bad if you need to leave. Thank you so much, Kate, thank you for joining, and we'll be in touch. And yes, thank you. Anyways, Marianka, maybe you can say a little bit more about Art27. I know you're not part of your panel, but just what you do, what your platform does is very incredible. So why don't you say?
Hello there. Can you hear me well? Yes. Thank you so much for inviting me on this panel. Sorry, for technical reasons, couldn't join earlier, but yes, so my name is Mariana Galoshenko, and I'm coordinator of the Art27 platform, which is a community of cultural organizations, open community, so of cultural organizations and artists and activists who work in culture and arts and touch upon issues, social issues, issues of inclusivity, social inclusivity in Europe and beyond as well. It started off from the times when we had like this big refugee crisis, so-called crisis, which we earlier today discussed with the panelists that it's not really a refugee crisis, but a war crisis. Anyways, that was the time when we started the platform, and today we have about 70 organizations joining us throughout Europe and across the ocean as well. And we always welcome new interesting projects and people who are concerned about the sort of issues like inclusivity and what can we do basically through the arts and culture to make an impact when it comes to questions like this one. You can check us more out on the art27.art to know more about it. And today, yes, we had a great opportunity to also present Songs for World Peace in our monthly talk show. So we just finished with that one. It's a sort of a marathon today with the world peace. Everyone wants to talk about peace, which is a great thing, in fact. And I think it's really important to discuss this sort of topics. So thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Marianka, and thank you, Laura, for introducing us to Marianka. We just, reached out not that long ago because we followed you on Instagram, and we knew what the work you did, and introducing us to Art27 and Together Productions that we also had an earlier event today was really great, and thank you so much. And we have another artist who is present here. It's Guro. She's from Norway. And I'm just gonna give a floor to Guro to talk about her song, what the message was from Inspired. And then we will conclude our panel today with Guru's song.
Thank you. Yes, so like once I started thinking about what to write, I was very, there's so much you can write about. So it was kind of difficult to kind of try to figure out, okay, what do I want to write about? But I ended up talking about refugees and people seeking peace. So I wanted to write it in the perspective of someone who has to flee from their country, and who just wants to be seen, who doesn't want to just be like a victim of like war in their country, but actually be seen for, hey, I'm a human being and I live in this country. How can I not have peace? So that was the background for my song. And then also the issue of like when you move and you come to maybe a different country or a different part of the country, it's also probably difficult to find that inner peace because you might not feel at home. You're at a new place, a new country. And yeah, it's basically about being seen. Everyone should be seen. So it's called See Me.
Has this conversation, because Peace Day does not end. I mean, we have a celebration today, but Peace Day is 365 days. So let's continue these conversations in our everyday life. And that's, let's take these messages that we, this conversation, these ideas that we shared today, and enhance what we already been doing. Please, let's connect. We will share the contact information. We already shared in our chat how to connect with each other, and all the artists that you heard today, you can reach out to us. We'll provide or reach out directly to the artist, or we will help you to give the context of the artist. So it's just let's be in this conversation together, and let's do our best to bring peace to the world. Thank you so much.
Reiste langt og håpet jeg kunne tråkke fra meg minnene. Jeg vil bli sett av fredfulle øyne, øyne som ser meg som et menneske. Drømmer
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful song. And the truth, the question is, can all the humans experience peace? So yes, so that's the question. And we'll do our best with our lives to do this, I hope. Anyways, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Please find all our songs from all our amazing artists on our website. It's songsforworldpeace.org, and we are on social media. We posted all the songs on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We're constantly sharing updates from the artists and either the piece quotes from them. So that there's a lot of content that we're contributing to from our artists, and obviously sharing the songs. So follow us. Again, thank you for joining, and we'll be let's see where we all meet next time.
Thank you all. You give me a lot of hope.
Thank you, Laura, for all the work you do. Thank you.